Okay, joining us now, former assistant U.S. attorney from Northern Virginia. Now he's retired. He's a teacher, and he's running for lieutenant governor on the Democratic side. That'll be decided in a primary in June. There's another candidate in the race, former attorney general candidate Justin Fairfax, and then Eileen Fillercorn lurking on the sidelines. Gene Rossi, good to have you with us, man.
John, how are you? I was interested in that pool table ad.
I tell you what, man.
I'm going to call Keisha.
You call Keisha, you're going to get the deal of the century, plus it's free delivery and assembly, and they got a galactic sale, 757-599-3661. Good segue. Gene Rossi. Now, You're in the race for lieutenant governor.
Yes, sir.
Justin Fairfax is in there. We've got him as the favorite right out of the box. He's already won a statewide race. What's the compelling reason for Gene Rossi for lieutenant governor?
Well, the compelling race for me is I'm going to be a strong voice for justice. I'm going to be nobody's voice but yours, John. And there are several issues I want to talk about. But I want to talk about what I've done for the last 27 years. Mm-hmm. And I got to make a confession on your radio. And I hope my opponents, Democrats or Republicans, don't put an ad on the TV or in print. But here's my confession. For 27 years, I was in love with two people. My lovely wife, Diane Rossi from Greenwood, Mississippi, mm-hmm. with whom we have 3 kids. And the other person I was in love with was Lady Justice. I was caught in her embrace working for the Justice Department and as assistant U.S. attorney for 27 years. And it took 27 years for me to get out of her embrace. Mm-hmm. And I want to be a voice for certain people, certain issues, because in federal court, in 110 trials, in many hearings, I spoke for the United States. John, I spoke for you. And I represented those who could not speak, the forgotten, those who were afraid, those who were victims, those we didn't care about. And I want to be a voice for those people in Virginia. And before the 27 years working for Lady Justice, I worked for the governor of Connecticut. I was his Washington representative. I was a lobbyist in a good way.
Who was that, Rowland?
No, he was a good guy. John Rowland. Well, John, I got to say, he was a good guy until he got indicted and convicted twice.
That's what I was going to say.
Were
you defending him?
John, minor point. But when he got elected in the Reagan landslide
right.
in 85,
right.
he was a fantastic congressman.
Right.
On certain social issues, not so much, because I'm a Dem. Okay,
right.
But on economic development, on getting rid of, and getting money without strings attached, mandates to the states, Connecticut. John Rowland was actually a fantastic congressman, given his seniority.
Right.
He was the youngest member of Congress.
Right.
And here's what I wanted. I wasn't even going to bring this up, but I worked for Governor O'Neill, Bill O'Neill. He took over for Ella Grasso, the first female elected in her own right, John. Remember George Wallace?
Yes.
Had his wife as governor. Everybody knew it was him because he couldn't run for a third term. I forget her name, but she was very attractive.
Her name was Cornelia.
Yeah, very attractive, but
very
I don't
nice.
think...
Actually, I met her several times. A wonderful woman.
You met her?
Yes, a very nice woman. I think
tremendous.
She's dead now.
A lot of class.
Yes.
A lot of class. A Southern belle.
Smart.
Pardon me, sir?
And smart. She was really smart.
Right.
Smart lady.
And but she was not the governor. He was the governor. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew that. But here's my point. Ella Grasso was the first female elected in her own right, mm-hmm. because Cornelia, she needed the help of her husband to get elected.
Right. Well, she had the Alabama Wallace machine behind her.
Exactly. But I worked for Governor O'Neill from 1983 to 1989. Then I worked for the Justice Department. But those 7 years, 6.5, I developed a lot of experience in federal state issues. And I have to add, I worked with the offices of Governor Robb and also Governor Bliles on certain transportation issues, human resources issues. But let's go back to why I want to be a voice. There are certain issues that I'm very passionate about. And, John, you're part of the Republican tide, if you will, in Virginia. There are certain issues that you may not agree with me on.
Wait, Gene. There's a Republican tide in Virginia. Did I miss that?
Not a Republican tide.
Where's that, Gene? I want to go find it. Tell me where it is.
Let's say it's a Republican shallow water. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Not a Republican tide. I misspoke. I apologize. But here there are some issues.
It's like a drip.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gene. I'd
rather be a Democrat.
I don't want to get you off.
I'd rather be a Democrat this year.
Republicans haven't won a statewide. They've lost the last 7 statewide contests in Virginia, so they're over 7. So there's not exactly a tie. But let me just ask you this, because a lot of what you're saying. A lot of what you're saying is.
Well, let me talk about my issues if I can.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There are about 3 or 4 issues that I'd like to talk about based on my experience and what I passionately hope Virginia will go in my direction.
All right.
One of them is the opioid heroin crisis. I headed an operation, organized crime operation, when I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Alexandria called Operation Cotton Candy, and I prosecuted over 200 people, and most of them were individuals, pain doctors. I had a pharmacist. Just hardcore drug dealers, most of them, not all of them. Most of them were individuals that sold pills, made a lot of profit, and they were doctors, and they made profit by issuing prescriptions. The pharmacists made profit by filling the prescriptions. And I learned a lot about how this state, including others, is facing an epidemic. And that epidemic is the opioid pill epidemic that is just crushing all parts of the state. And my office was in Alexandria, and during my trials, and one of the main trials I had was Dr. William Hurwitz, who, John, wrote a prescription intentionally for 1,200. I'm going to repeat that. 1,200 oxycodone pills per day to one patient. He intentionally wrote that. He was a monster.
I just got to ask you this, Gene.
Why?
I mean, I've got to ask you this before we go further in the opioid, because we've only got 4 minutes. I've just got to ask you this. What your passion and what you're articulating about would be like you were running for attorney general. You're running for lieutenant governor. Basically what that job is you hit the gavel. If the Republicans have a majority in the Senate, which I believe the Democrats are not going to break that in the 17th cycle, and you're lieutenant governor and leaving it for Ralph Northam as governor, you're going to be hitting the gavel, bringing them into the session, taking them out of session, and your only influence is if there happens to be a tie, especially if you're with the minority party within the Senate of Virginia. So all the things that you're talking about as lieutenant governor, you're not going to have any real influence over, right?
John, I am fully aware that the lieutenant governor in the state of Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia, does not have as much power as the attorney general or the governor. However, what she or he can have is they can use that position as a bully pulpit, and that's where I want to be a voice for those who cannot speak.
That makes sense.
That is why I want to be a voice for those whose issues are not heard. Just because I break a tie, and by the way, lieutenant governors always win their votes. Just because I break a tie doesn't mean I can't speak about the issues.
Right.
Doug Wilder spoke about issues. Hager spoke about issues.
Right.
Don Beyer, one of my favorite politicians, he was the lieutenant governor for 2 terms. Fantastic guy, a fantastic public servant. He was an advocate.
Well, look, I mean,
Tim Kaine.
You're right. One of my favorite lieutenant governors, Bill Bowling, good friend of mine, he took the job and he turned it into a platform, just like you're saying, in order to get his issues done. Okay, so I like that.
Well, that's one issue. But here's my thing. Here's what I want to do with the opioid issue, and there's others.
I got 2 minutes.
Okay, but here's what I would like to do for opioids in my 2 minutes. I want to educate doctors and pharmacists. I want to educate the public. But the second thing I want to do, I said most of the people were hardcore dealers. The others were just simple addicts who got addicted and caught up in the web of opioid addiction. They, for whatever reason, and we need to change the criminal justice approach to those who have addiction and mental health issues. And we need to help them when they get sentenced to prison, and we need to help them when they do that transition from confinement to community. And there was an article by Brian Moran that came out yesterday that was talking about, it was juvenile justice, but it's an economic thing. If we attack the addiction that causes people to sell pills and obtain them, we're going to have, in the end, more money. The second issue I'd like to talk about is education. Yesterday I was at the high school for Senator Colgan, who retired, Colgan High School in Prince William County. Sadly, my son's TC Women's football team didn't do so well, but they called the game. But education is very important. We need to focus on also early childhood development. Third thing I want to talk about is the Medicaid gap. I'm a medical survivor who was murdered and resurrected in 2013. I have a great prognosis, and I will release my medical records. But I am very, very conscious of how hard it is, not only to obtain good insurance, but even if you have insurance, how difficult it is to pay bills when you or a family goes through a medical crisis.
You're right, and especially if you have Obamacare right now, you're getting screwed like we were. That's why we went to Liberty Health.
Well, John,
hey, Gene, I'm out of time.
We should not be letting the millions of dollars. I'm sorry, sir.
Gene,
we should not be letting those millions of dollars that the feds have just sit there. We're wasting that.
Actually, it's $7.1 billion, but who is adding it up? Gene, I got to take off. We will have you back next week. I promise. Gene Rossi, running for lieutenant governor on the Democratic side. He's in with Justin Fairfax, who I've got as the favorite, and Eileen Filler-Korn waiting in the wings. She's lurking, Gene. She's lurking.